Everyone, welcome to the second module of English Literature. We continue with The Merchant of Venice, Act 3, Scene 3. In the previous class, we discussed about the importance of the scene, that is Act 3, Scene 3, and we had started with the line-wise explanation of the play. In this scene, we saw that Shylock is adamant to follow the bond. Antonio repeatedly pleads Shylock to hear him once, but Shylock refuses to hear him and says that he will have his bond. Shylock feels elated on seeing the melancholic, helpless Antonio at his mercy. The wicked Jew is obsessed with the bond of a pound of flesh, and all the pleas, he says that no pleas will change his mind. Shylock's repeated use of the word bond indicates his desire for revenge. That is why he becomes deaf to any pleading of Antonio. Shylock also accuses the jailer of favoritism, allowing Antonio to come out of the prison. Today, with line number 2, Antonio says, I pray, hear me speak. Shylock, I'll have my bond. I will hear thee speak. I'll have my bond, and therefore speak no more. I'll be made a sort of dull-eyed fool to the head, lament and sigh, and yield to Christian entreaties. Follow not, I'll have no speaking, I will have my bond. Here we see Antonio again requests Shylock to listen to him and allow him to speak. Shylock refuses, saying that he will keep his promise, and says not to speak to him anymore. He says he won't be made soft and dull-eyed fool, shake his head and in sigh and surrender to the Christian entreaters. Entreaters means the pleaders. So he says to follow him because he won't put up the speaking of Antonio. And he says that he has to keep his promise, as he said before, that he had taken an oath, and thus he will go according to his bond. With these statements, Shylock leaves. On seeing Shylock refusing the pleadings of Antonio, Salanio gets angry, and he says, it is most impenetrable cur that ever kept with men. He says that it is most difficult to understand the dog that ever stayed with men. He calls Shylock as impenetrable cur. Antonio now gives up, and he says, let him alone, let him go. I'll follow him no more with bootless prayers, he says. Now I'm not going to follow Shylock with my bootless, means useless prayer. He seeks my his reason, well I know. I oft delivered from his forfeitures, many that have at times made moan to me. Therefore he hates me. So Antonio knows the reason of Shylock's hatred for him. He says that many a times he have saved many people who had come with a complaint to Antonio on defaulting on his own. Antonio had delivered those people. So Shylock hated him. Therefore he hates me. Salanio, I'm sure the Duke will never grant his forfeiture to hold. Salanio tries to comfort Antonio by saying that I am very sure the Duke is all powerful and he will not enforce this default. Now, Antonio knows that the Duke cannot deny the course of law. Antonio says the Duke cannot deny the course of law, for the commodity that strangers have with us in Venice, if it be denied, it will much impeach the justice of the state, since that the trade and profit of the city consisteth of all nations. Therefore, go, these griefs and losses have so baited me that I shall hardly spare a pound of flesh tomorrow to my bloody creditor. Well, jailer, on. Pray God Bassanio come to see me pay his debt, and then I care not. Antonio has now given up. Antonio says that the Duke cannot deny the course of law because the benefits that the strangers have with us in Venice, if it is denied, it will reflect very badly on the justice of the state because the trade and profit of the city is from all nations. And thus he says to Salarino, go, these griefs and losses have so upset me that I shall hardly have a pound of flesh to hand over to my bloody creditor tomorrow. Well, jailer, let's go on. And then he expresses his wish that he prays to God that good Bassanio comes to see him to pay his debt. Whose debt? And Bassanio's debt. And then he doesn't care. Exeunt. Both Salarino and Antonio leaves. Thus the scene comes to an end over here.